What up guys, Party Knife here, or as they call me in ranked matchmaking, the Fragger Dagger. Now before we get to the top 10 most amazing keybinds to blow your mind out of proportion, straight from Silver 1 into Global Elite, past Faceit level 10, and all the way quantum leaping to such aim and skill levels that they're gonna be equal simple times Sai Wu plus device squared. Which you know, pretty good for just a bunch of keybinds. But before we get to that, I just have to tell you guys about my most legendary achievement to date. I reached Steam account level 69, brothers. What up guys, Party Knife here. Now, this might be my first Counter-Strike guide, but it's by no means my first YouTube guide. I've made plenty of those. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm a man of science, and I've really delved deep into the research and tried the best I could to find, like, search the web for the 10 best, most effective keybinds that you can put in your Autoexec file, Autoexec, I'm not sure how to say that. You get the point. And in this video, we're going to go through all of those 10 keybinds, but I'm going to take it a little bit like a step further. I'm going to show you guys, and I've linked my Autoexec down below so you can download it and copy sort of the code. But I'm also going to go through the actual, not code, but I'm going to show you guys the code for all the keybinds and tell you really quickly what you need to change in order to customize the key bindings to fit your layout, right? Because that's what I struggled with when I tried to set it up for the first time. It was, you know, you'd find this thing and you'd be like, oh, but you know, the more complicated ones, it took a while to sort of adjust to fit my own preferences. So that's what I'm going to try to alleviate for you guys today. And I'm almost guarantee you, unless you're a true Counter-Strike mad lad, there's going to be at least one or two, possibly even more, of these keybinds that you haven't seen or haven't tried out before. There's also going to be a couple of generic ones that I'm sure most of you are familiar with to some extent, but now I'm going to show you guys how to set them up, how to use them properly, and yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to go through today. So let's get started. Now, as you can see, this is my my config file that I've linked down below. And we're going to skip down to the part that's called weapon keybinds. And the first one I've named the quick turn for obvious reasons. Now the two topmost lines of code, you theoretically don't need those if you're going to change the bind alt to another key. But because alt is the default bind for no clipping, for that reason I've chosen to unbind alt first. So those two don't interfere. But if you just want to change the key so that you have a different modifier, it could be whichever button you prefer, then you just need to change the part that says alt in the bottom right there to whichever key you want to act as the modifier. Now what this bind does is it changes your horizontal mouse sensitivity and sets it extremely high whilst the button is held down, whilst not changing your vertical mouse sensitivity at all. And what that allows you to do is really consistently do like turn 180 degrees really fast, and that can be really, really effective, especially if you're a player who prefers to have a really low sensitivity, which can make you struggle in terms of proper movement, right? So this is one of the things that it can help you with, as you can see here. Now, I just want to mention that the keys you can see out on the left of the screen, they're not actually representative of all the buttons I'm clicking. In order to sort of simplify things and make it less confusing, the yellow buttons, and which are the only parts that are actually going to activate visually, are always going to be related to the actual modifier. So you're not going to see the buttons that I'm moving on or any other keys that I'm clicking. So we're sticking to the actual relevant keys. Now this next one, I'm sure you guys have seen before. I called it the scoping knife. I don't know if it has an official name, but I think it's the single most useful keybind that you can have. It's just so nice. It helps you with opping or just, you know, with sniping in general, and it's just a really, I don't know, I feel way more comfortable when I have this on my queue. Now essentially what it does is it pulls out your knife temporarily, And what I mean by that is whichever weapon you have in your hand, when you click Q in this case, it's going to pull out your knife, and when you release the button, it's going to give you back whichever weapon you had in your hand when you click the button. So it's like a temporary knife button, whereas normally you would have to switch to your knife and then switch back to your other weapon. Here, with a single keystroke, you switch to the knife and you switch back again. And what that allows you to do is when you're scoping with a weapon, it prevents you from re-scoping. Not only that, it also makes it way easier to perform a really important movement when you're opping, because the way movement works in CS is when you get hit, you get slowed down. But that doesn't affect you if you're midair, which means if you can get the momentum from using the knife and then jumping, and you then get hit, then the slow is not going to affect you. And thus, it can make it way easier to sort of go in, take the shot, and get back out, because you equip your knife for a split second, and in that split second, you're jumping away, thus preserving the momentum if you get hit. The next one I'm sure you guys have heard about as well. It is the jump throw. Now, the way it works is that once you have, like, you bind it to a button, obviously, in this case it's X. Now you just need to change the bind X to whichever key you want to have. And the way it works is essentially you pull out a piece of utility, you charge it up, then you click the button, and then it performs a perfect and 100% consistent jump throw all the time, every time, which is really, really useful, especially for lining up smokes. Now, I am no pro at lining up smokes yet. That's still one of the things I need to practice a lot on. So I just found a random spot here where, you know, it sort of fit the bill, right? But you'd be able to throw that smoke 100% consistently with a bind like this. Whereas if you were relying on simply performing a perfect jump through every single time, then it's not going to be as consistent, right? And it's allowed in competitive play these days to have this bind. So really, you're doing yourself a disservice by not using it. And you're at a disadvantage, I guess. It can also be really useful for Molotovs. Again, this is just, I tested out a couple of Molotovs here, and I found that, yeah, you know, if you throw it right in the bottom here with the jump throw, then it lands on the first. And if you do an equivalent, but with movement, same lineup, but also put some frontal momentum, then it's going to land right behind. And again, you know it's going to do that 100% of the time, so it's about the consistency it provides. Next up, we have the bomb drop. Now, I know we're getting all the boring ones now. The next one is going to be more interesting, I promise. Also more complicated. But I'm sure you've seen this one before, right? And I think this is an absolute must to have, because you really just don't want to have to either have a separate key for the bomb or having to open your weapon wheel and then equip the bomb and then drop the bomb. That's just all really convoluted. It takes too long, and you know, you're going to get shot, right, in the midst of doing that. So you simply bind this to a button. I have it on my N button, and it's going to automatically throw the bomb for you. It's going to equip the bomb, throw the bomb, re-equip your primary weapon, which is really, really useful, because that again makes it way, way easier. If you have to throw the bomb, it's just a quality of life improvement on all accounts. So I would definitely suggest using this bind, regardless of your skill level. Up next, we have something slightly more complicated: the Multiscript. Now, what this essentially does is, in this case, I've set it to E, R, and F. Now, E, R, and F are the keys I use for E is the use key, as you can see, plus use. R is my reload key, and F is my push to talk button. Now, what this script does is it allows you to have a secondary function on the same key when you apply a modifier to the key. In this case, the modifier is shift, because I walk on space, which means my shift key is, you know, open. But you could change that shift key to any key you want. So when you click shift plus E, I now equip a heat grenade. When I click shift plus R, I equip a Molotov or an incendiary. And when I shift plus F, I equip a smoke. And you could add a flash as well. I've sort of put the stuff you need down in the bottom here and explained how if you want to add functions, how you do that. Now this is so useful, right? Because it allows you double function for all the important and easy to reach keys. And I've even a triple function on my R actually, which I named as the keybind 5.5, because my R actually both reloads and it clears the decals, but on top of that it can also equip both an incendiary and a Molotov grenade in combination with the modifier, which in this case is shift. Now I'm just quickly going to showcase it in case I wasn't clear enough. As you can see, my E is my use key. R just reloaded and cleared all of the bullet holes. That's what clear decals means. And that can be really useful because blood and stuff like that can camouflage enemy players. And F is my push to talk, as you can see as well. But now, if I were to shift, in a moment, shift E, I get my heat grenade, shift R, I get an incendiary, and shift F, I get a smoke. And you could add, again, a flash grenade for the same, but I have my flash on scroll down. Don't ask me why, there's I just have. So, and you could add any given function that you could think of to this script, assuming you spend a little bit of time understanding it. I've tried my best to put in the sort of the description of how to do that. Moving on, we have the sip neck silence, because that was short enough that it didn't go over my cam here. I also called it the shut up, I'm clutching, because essentially what it does, it's just a toggle bind for enabling and disabling the in-game voice, right? So essentially it shuts up your whole team, because there's nothing more annoying in some situations than half your team wanting to play your clutch for you, and you just can't think, and everyone's like, he's there, and I'm like, I've fucking seen him. This happened to me recently.
Accept it, please. Fast. You scary, yeah?
I'm Master Guardian 2 now.
Scary, idiot.
Bruh.
Like, you know, those kind of people you just mute. And I started playing in, December. Anyways, moving on. We got the next. This is, it's the clutch keybind. Now, if you're anything like me and you don't want to go deaf before you're 45, this is a bind for you. What it does is it increases the in-game volume whenever you're walking. Now, of course, you would have to change the space here to whichever key you use for walking, most likely shift. And keep in mind that I use a fairly low default master audio, master volume in-game. The 0.1 means it increases and decreases the in-game master audio by 10%. But that's not relative to that's not relative to how high the in-game audio already is, right? So if it's on 10% when you start, which is what I play with, then it's gonna double the audio whenever you're walking to 20%. But if you were on 50% to begin with, then it would only go to 60%. But you could change that by changing that value 0.1 and set it up to 0.5, then it would work with 50%. And as you can hear here, this is just me, you can hear the difference between when I'm walking and when I'm not. And this can easily be the difference, because if you're, again, I feel like AKs can be really, really loud with headphones sometimes, but I also always want to be able to hear in clutch scenarios. I want to be able to hear when people are walking in different locations. And so I find that this is a really great bind for that. It's sort of a good in-between, where it's sort of the best of both worlds, where you don't have to sort of screw up your ears completely with loud AK noises, but you can still hear enemy players. Now, this next bind is fairly basic. It's essentially just, it gives you two buttons from which you can increase or decrease the in-game master audio without having to open your settings. I personally use the arrow up and arrow down. That way I can moderate the overall audio level whilst also having the additional modifier of walking. Which personally I find really useful, because don't underestimate the importance of sound in this game. Sound is incredibly important. Right, so the way it's configured right now, it goes up and down by 10% each time I click one of the arrows. And now we're getting to the troll keybinds. What are the troll keybinds? Well, I have two of them. First, we got what I call the danger deagle. This is a pretty basic script that essentially allows you to both inspect your weapon and clicks R afterwards. And what that does is it allows you to repetitively spam a single button. I have it on my scroll button in order to you know, to get that sweet. I fucked it up there. Just pretend like you're holding, you're on an eco round. You're holding an arch here with the Deagle, and you hear them coming up mid. It's just been called from B, right? So they're coming up mid. You know they're on their way, and you're like, I want that sweet ass highlight. So you spam this button in order to spin your Deagle around, so that right when they come up mid, boom, headshot, and you got that that delicious highlight. And you can also use it to spin other items like some knives, for example. So this is purely visual, right? It's not actually a competitive bind. So I don't know. I just like it. Spin the knife, yay! So it's not that useful, but you know, I thought I'd include it anyways. And then number 10, we got the instant insult. I thought I like to have fun, so I thought I'd include some funny ones as well, you know? I mean, it is still 10 competitive ones, because there was 5.5 in the script. But anyways, this is essentially just a keybind that allows you to pre-record a chat message and bind it to a button that both writes and sends the message for you. So I like to have my two basics ones are, say what? What was that? Bro, what are you saying? I'm sorry, but you'll have to speak up. I don't think I can hear you from the bottom of the scoreboard. You know, when you have that one Russian that's yelling and screaming at you, even though he's the lowest fracking dude on the team, and nothing is his fault, and everything is everyone else's fault. I'm like, bro, I can't hear you. I don't know, it's a bit troll, right? But people are seriously cancer in this game. That's just a fact. I don't make the rules. I personally try not to be whenever possible. But once in a while, I'll send a little cheeky message when someone are really acting cancer, right? I also like the other one, like, bro, your aim is so bad, I'm surprised you managed to hit the install button. That usually gets people people riled up and laughing. But I thought we'd just do a quick recap of all the ones we've been going through. Got the quick turn, which is really useful for people with low sensitivity. You got the scoping knife, as I called it, which I think every player should try out if they haven't tried it out. It's absolutely amazing. It's way better than quick shifting. You got quick swapping, sorry. Got the jump throw. Again, I'm not that great at using it yet, but I know from a logical standpoint that it's just better, right? The bomb drop, I think everyone should have that bound as well. The multiscript, and let me just say really quickly that the multiscript, it like the amount of functions, like it's not limited to the functions I've put in here. I've tried the best I could in my config file to explain exactly what you need to do in order to put in your own functions and your own keybinds and apply them to the script that's written there. Now, if you have any questions about that or need help, feel free to ask me down in the comments and I'll do the best I can to help. But really, there's no limitations to it in that sense. Like any sort of two functions you can imagine can be on the same key binding, acting with the modifier, right? It's just about figuring out what is the command for the function that you want to have applied on. And then you also need to figure out, obviously, what's the name of the key that you want to bind it to, right? And I've explained the best I could how to sort of implement that. So really, there are so many options with this multiscript. And I can't take credit because I haven't written it myself, just to be clear. I just took the time to understand it. Decal Reloading, again, really underrated. It's a tiny detail, but it really does make a difference, being able to clear the decals in the middle of combat. The zip next silence, definitely an absolute must in my opinion. Otherwise, I can't think sometimes if everyone is spamming me with information. Clutch walking, oh god, I love that. I really do. It's like, that way I don't have to destroy my hearing 24/7. Audio tuning and the danger deagle, which is a perfect keybind for making those sweet highlights. And let's be real, we all want those sweet highlights. The instant insult, which, just to be clear, doesn't have to be an insult. It could as well be a really nice comment. It could be something practical, something useful. There's no limitations here, right? Any message that you can think of, any combination of words or letters is what I meant to say, you can put into one of these functions. But just be aware that the moment you click the button, it sends the message, the whole message, right? So just a quick warning. I personally just use it for a couple of cheeky messages, so I don't have to, so I don't have to start getting mad or anything in game. I think it's nice to just clicking a button is just way, then you could just turn off. You don't have to think about it. If someone on your team is being cancer, and so you could just click button, shield off, ignore, right? And I don't know. I just that's how I deal with it when I can feel that I'm getting frustrated, which isn't often, but it does happen. I'm human. Now, I thought I'd show you guys this absolutely useless solo boost on Inferno, since we were here anyways. Now, this jump, I have an accuracy of 100% when I'm playing solo by myself in a practice game, and an accuracy of 0% when I'm playing a competitive game. I don't think I've actually ever managed to do that jump a single time in a competitive game. I fail it every time. As soon as I go into practice, nail it, which is annoying. Now, what we're looking at here is in a lot of the other videos I make about a game called Vermintide primarily, I used to have a thing where I would sort of end videos off with an absolutely random explosion for an absolutely pointless explosion for absolutely no reason. That's the way I used to put it. A pointless explosion for absolutely no reason. Now, this is my first time trying to set this up in CSGO, so I spent I don't want to admit it, but I actually probably spent 5 or 6 hours just because I didn't know any of the commands. I had to set it all up, just learning how to set up things that can go boom boom on my own in CSGO. So I probably went a little bit overkill on this first one, as you will see, because yeah, that happened. But I'm still a scrub here. I've only played the game for 2 months. Must have got into respectable, but I did manage to find a sort of a middle ground that that actually exploded. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something new. If you did, please let me know down in the comments below. It means a lot, because I'm trying to break into a new audience here, which means that every like and share, I hate begging for it, and I'm not gonna. If you didn't like the video, then don't like the video. But if you did like it, then please like it, and pass it on to someone who could use these keybinds, because it's always hard with a new audience trying to get that to work. So hopefully you liked the video, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm gonna stop rambling on now. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, I love you guys. Stay awesome. Peace out.